I went to the pursuit of truth, and this one is, I suspect, going to be slightly controversial in the subject matter with certain people's views, I suspect. Um, and my reasoning for this is that um, I don't know, to me, it shows an example of humanity or lack of humanity or our problems within humanity. And this is in many different ways from this one little news event that's happening currently to do with Southport, which is where a 17-year-old Axel, he killed and attempted to kill primary children who were on a summer break. It's because school's finished. I know this because I have I have twins who are 6 years old, and they finish school. And and I noticed with the school, even with ours, they have these summer term camps and things, different things you can do, activities. So this was something like that. It was a Taylor Swift and dance kind of class that these primary children, I believe they were between 6 and was it 9 or 10, and 3 children have already died, and I believe their ages were between 6 and 9, and I think it was in total that was another 5 that are in hospital, so that would be attempted murder. I mean, the first thing that I thought about when I first, and I want to give this as a chronological of the event and why I'm talking about this. I'm not talking about this because I want views or because I want likes or because it's current or because I want to stir up problems or say things that are going to be inflammatory or anything like that. That's not my wheelhouse. That's not how I think. This is just because I want to talk about this because it interested me in the sense of humanity, in the sense of the pursuit of truth. So the first thing I thought was like, how is it possible for a 17-year-old, and I'm not doing this as some kind of saying that he didn't do it or anything, nothing like that, like some kind of controversy, but I'm saying it in the sense that how does a 17-year-old get to that stage where they could stab children, primary children, even when I've watched lots of programs about serial killers, like Jack the Ripper or the Yorkshire Ripper or whoever, where they target adults usually, and it's very rare that you hear an adult serial killer or killer killing children. I mean, it does happen usually within households, to do with some kind of dispute and stuff like that. You hear about that, but not normally, terrorists or serial killers who plan to go out and kill. Usually uses adults that they go out and kill. They don't usually go out to kill children. I can't imagine how, and I'm not saying this in any way, but in how difficult it would be to kill screaming children, because obviously adults, when they're being attacked and stuff, they're going to scream and they're going to be distressed, but it's not going to be in the same way as like little kids are going to be. And my heart goes out to these parents and to the families of those around who've lost or who are still in hospital. I can't imagine how much pain that is, because it was 10 minutes before the end of the class. It's so cruel. This 10 minutes before, the parents could have been standing outside unaware, or at least going to school to pick up their children after they think they'd had a fun, not knowing that this was the last time they were going to see them. I mean, that is so hurtful and horrible. And how is it possible that any human being, no matter age, any human being could ever do that? But this is the world we live in, and I don't know, I don't think it's intrinsically within human beings, but it is something. So from that point of view, I could see like this is a terrible thing that's happened, and how is it possible that this 17-year-old child himself, or a young adult, whatever you want to call it, would be able to stomach, and I say that in the most sincerest way, I don't mean it to be grotesque or anything like that, and I hope that no family members are listening to this, but if they are, I apologise if that the way I'm saying it, but just I can't imagine how that, I have two 6-year-olds, how it's possible to do that, because it would take a certain kind of person, detached, to be able to, for the screaming and for the pain, and to, they're so little and tiny. To I mean, to stab anyone is like they always say, is a very, pathology is like a personal thing. To shoot someone, is easier than, say, stabbing someone, because it's, you have to go in, you have to do it. I just can't imagine that. And then obviously there were these Defence League riots where they decided that this person came on a boat, and they were going to just throw stones at the local mosque. I mean, it just shows like the depravity also of these types of people who are, because, and this is why it connects with the pursuit of truth, because the system that we live within, the time that we live within, we're bred to be patriotic to a certain location based on where we've, luckily or unluckily found ourselves upon. It says, it's nothing more than that. If you were born somewhere else, you'd be patriotic to that country. There's nothing special about it. It's just your luck of wherever you're born, where your parents are, or their grandparents, etc., is where you are. And then you grow up being programmed, as it were, to be patriotic, to have those values and views of thousands of years people that have been here, that still these things are lingering on. And people will fight for that. That's why people fight for wars and etc. But you're getting a lot of these people, and I'm surprised when I see on Facebook people that that are on Facebook saying things and coming in defence of this idea of Britain for British or etc. and all that kind of rubbish and racism and rhetoric, and forgetting the truth, the intrinsic truth. The only intrinsic truth is that we're all human beings, irrespective of these locations and the system and the borders that we found ourselves in, and nationalities and patriotism and all that. We're all human beings. We're all exactly the same. It's just we may look different or speak different or whatever the differences are, but we're all one. We're brothers and sisters of each other. But yet we've got programmed into that a mindset of like, oh, you're different and therefore you shouldn't be here, or this, that and the other. Why would anyone have, and this is like I'm saying, this is another set of views of this one story that's coming out. Loads of these people throwing stones at the police, the same police who rushed in to save these people, who tackled the 17-year-old and stopped him and took him away. They're the same police officers that are now having stones thrown at because they're protecting a mosque. Because even though people didn't know at that time the person's name or anything about this person, they just, someone on social media. And that's, I do question, and this is where another bit comes in, like the media keeps saying, like, only trust us and don't trust social media, and that kind of rhetoric that's coming out a lot over the last few years because they're worried about their position. Even though you got, like some people pointing out, is that, you got Hugh Edwards, who's just been convicted of paedophilia, and yet they're showing clips of him talking about don't trust social media, you've got to trust the right sources, which is obviously because he was a BBC newsreader. But the irony of it now. But the fact is that there's a lot of this pushing, but now I see, their Southport thing was an example of where social media is a danger, where someone can just come up with these spurious claims, and people, because of confirmation bias, will just believe it. They don't even fact check. They don't even care that no one knows. Everyone knows that no one knows. Who would know possibly about this person? They claimed that they were, an asylum seeker from a boat, and obviously, the police had already said this is a British citizen who was born in Cardiff. And yet, people can just say things, and then people will just go off and start throwing stones. Ordinary human beings will start throwing stones at police and at mosques and etc. and cause violence, and yet be counter to the argument that they're trying to make. And then you get, when I was looking on Facebook today, because they released the picture and the name of Axel, and it's a young picture of him, which some people have questioned, should they be putting out young pictures of him and this, that and the other, but the judges lifted the this is the media. See, the media, they like to it's okay for them to speculate. I mean, that was the thing, just to go back on that, when the media saying like social media and the police saying that please don't comment on social media and this, that and the other. But it's okay for the media to spend 2 days, 24/7 talking about it, talking to different people, for them to sort of err on the speculation of, because they have police officers on, they talk about, with retired police officers about the situation, then they go to a neighbour to ask them, what fact checks have they checked to make sure that person was actually at the event? Because we know there's lots of people, including like in the Grenfell event, where they claim to be part of it, and then we found out they weren't, because there's people that that want to be famous for those 5 minutes or whatever, and there people are that are sick enough to do that. And so what fact checks are they actually doing to prove that the person they're talking to was actually at the place? And for them, I mean, if you were a parent, it's easy to just switch off your social media, Facebook or whatever, but the TV's on all the time and the news is on all the time. Every hour it comes on BBC or ITV or Channel 4, etc. And it's the story, and then if you've got Sky News or BBC News, where it's 24 hours, they're just constantly talking about it, and they're constantly repeating the same things, regurgitating over and over and over and over again. And they're doing forms of speculating by talking to various people about this, that and the other. But it's okay for them. But anyway, so then recently they released the name and the picture. Well, I don't know who released the picture. I guess they found it on Facebook maybe. And they talked about that he was diagnosed with autism. I guess this came out of the court hearing. And obviously my daughter has autism. And then there's just like on Facebook, just lots of like, oh, now they're using the autism card, and sort of poo-pooing that, and sort of saying he should be hung, and all these sort of vile things that they're saying. And they don't realise that the culture there, it's just surprised me. I scrolled through it. I just wanted to see, was anyone sort of saying anything of the, I know I'm not trying to defend this person. This person went out and stabbed these young children, 3 of who have already died. And it is heinous crime. But, and this is where it becomes controversial, because I know I have an autistic daughter, and I know that a lot of these people on Facebook who are commenting about all this have no idea of autism, because all they know of autism is Dustin Hoffman and Freddie Highmere on those TVs and films, where it's usually the high-end autism, where they're like great mathematicians and all that kind of stuff. Not the autism, because it's a spectrum disorder, of not speaking, not verbalizing, of doing things differently and not understanding and all that kind of stuff that doesn't ever get on films and TV. So I know that, how it is, and it just, because they describe him as a quiet boy, who didn't want to go out, and he didn't talk to his parents, and now that we know he has ASD, was he, like, imagine if he wasn't really aware, if he was groomed online, because autistic children, like my daughter, when she watched something on YouTube, whatever, she wants to go and do it, She'll see someone, making pineapple pizza, yeah, and then she'll want pineapple pizza, or she'll see someone playing with balloons, and she'll want balloons. It's not like us when we just watch a video and then that's it. There is a difference with autistic children. So I just wonder whether they're, depending on what this boy was watching, or, and he was desensitized, and he may not, I don't know. I'm not trying to defend him, and this is where it becomes, because I don't know. But what worried me is that there was a lack of understanding of the humanity of it. Yes, I know he's committed a crime, but imagine if it was your son or daughter and they had a mental disorder like autism, a disability, where they're unaware of the gravity of their actions. I don't know. They say, on Facebook, they said, and I haven't heard this reported, that he managed to get a taxi and message himself and this, that and the other. I don't know. I haven't seen that. So I don't know if that's true or not, which seems they were suggesting is some kind of premeditation, but I don't know if that's been put in there to create that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been involved in a teenager who is autistic yet to know whether it's possible for them to go out and do this without the understanding, or to not have the realization that what they're doing is wrong or a crime. Or because I know with my daughter, she doesn't know dangers. You know, you always have to be very careful with her. She's not so bad now, but she's often like, well, twice now, escaped. I managed to work out the lock of the garden gate and go out and run off, and we have to chase her. Luckily, we've seen, and I heard of one person, many times where they've autistic children escape, because that made me worried when recently I saw that there was a 6-year-old girl who was in London, but she was found eventually, and that made me worry about it if my daughter ever did this. So I don't know if there is capacity for that, if you could, be groomed or see things and then act them out not knowing of the crime of it or the danger of it. Because I know autistic children do have that. But it just like the sort of comments, it sort of made me think like most of the people sort of say that just hang him and oh no, they're coming up with excuses and this, that and the other. But it may not be that. I mean, the judge wasn't doing that. He was just explaining it simply. And I didn't see anyone sort of saying about, well, let's look at this and see, 1 minute, try to understand the situation. Because we don't get anywhere by just being as vile as everyone else. That doesn't benefit anything. Yes, what is done is a crime. But of course, the main thing is the intention and the capacity of it. And I know there's these criminals. I was watching this Yorkshire Ripper thing recently, and him claiming that he hears voices from God and this, that, and the other. I know there's very rare that any criminal will stand in the dock and say, yes, I did it, and yes, I was wrong. Most criminals will always deny it and say it's not, and will use any excuse in the book to get away with their crimes. I get that. But but are there times where people do have issues that, that doesn't take away anything from the crime. It still means they're a danger, because if they have that, if this child does have an autistic nature that allowed him to do such a thing, and had he not been autistic, he would have never done it, or maybe he was groomed or saw videos that a normal, say, a neurotypical child would see and wouldn't act out upon them. Although, there's lots of neurotypical children that have acted out and done all sorts of things. So this isn't just something that's with autism. This is with humans in general. But I don't know. I suppose it's because of the nature of it, because it's against children. Obviously, people are going to be emotional. I mean, I was emotional, but I guess maybe because I have a connection with the autism that I was just wanting to understand. It would horrify me. I just put myself, like, if I was, imagine if you were the person, and I'm not trying to say this is the case, but imagine if you were the person who was, say, autistic, and you weren't aware of dangers, you weren't aware of actions, and you could possibly watch something, or someone could goad you and tell you, oh yeah, this is a good idea. Them thinking, not, purposely doing it, maybe not knowing that the person would really do it. And because they're autistic and not thinking the same way as a neurotypical, they go out and do this thing, thinking that it's just like a game, or it doesn't really, and then they, like in the court, he's got his jumper over his face. And then imagine you wake up and you're told, no, what you've done is really, really terrible. Now you're going to spend the rest of your life in a prison or a mental institution. Imagine how that would be. And I'm not trying to defend him or anything. I don't know the situation. It may be nothing like that. He may be have very small autism and knew exactly what he was doing, and just, I don't know what makes people, become these serial killers, these murderers who can do. I mean, to me, I can't. I wouldn't. I mean, when there's a fly dead, and this is, I know I sound like Norman Bates now, but then there's flies or spiders, I lift them out of the window and take them out rather than killing them. I can't imagine how much it would take to kill anyone by any means, let alone children. So I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just talking about what I've seen of humanity and how humanity reacts to these things, and it shows that humanity is broken in many, many ways. And this is because of our system and the way that we've divided ourselves and all the things I talk about in the pursuit of truth. Anyway, leave your comments. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.